Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
Are you looking for your next true crime podcast? Do you crave stories that have mystery and suspense? Well, look no further. Introducing Love and Murder, the podcast that dives deep into the world of relationships gone horribly wrong. Every week, I take you on a journey through the dark side of love, where passion turns into obsession, families become enemies, and romance turns to murder. From mysterious mysteries to suspenseful suspense, I dive deep into cases of love gone wrong. So why should you listen to Love and Murder? Because this is not just another true crime podcast. We're your partners in crime. Not guilty! Your storytellers and your weekly dose of suspenseful entertainment. How many times have I said suspenseful? So what are you waiting for? Join the Love and Murder family and become part of the Lamb community. Tune in every week for a new episode that will keep you hooked. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button now. Love and Murder, because you're either someone's last love or their first murder.
Love and Murder, available on all major podcast platforms. Not for true crimers under 18. Must be an apple juice drinking enthusiast, but not really. Side effects include enjoying another true crime podcast, becoming a lamb, learning logic and how to deal with your problems in a healthy manner, and not turning to murder. Waiting for the next episode of Love and Murder to drop every week. Visit our website at www.murderandlove.com.
And remember, all love and no murder. See you soon.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Hey Dylan, how's it going?
Girl, my toes is tingling.
You said you were feeling quite energized.
Yeah, I got that podcast energy just flowing through me.
Is this 48 for you?
Yeah. See, this is what happens.
I asked you what your first day at age 48 felt like, and you said it was just like every other day.
I'm just like old big cheese.
The big cheese, like a big stinky cheese?
A big old smelly, a big aromatic cheese.
Well, I believe that.
Yeah, and I just get better with every year that passes.
Oh, so you're like a finely aged aromatic cheese.
I'm not, don't even cut into me
Like
yet.
a French cheese.
I'm like a big wheel of cheese. A big one.
I've always wanted to own a wheel of cheese.
Yeah.
I love cheese.
Hey, you know there's like the premium cheese market.
Right.
It's like some big time stuff. Like you have things that have been aged like 50 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, you have a cheese like Stilton is like really expensive.
Yeah.
Like per pound. So yeah.
That's how I'm priced. By the pound.
I don't trust people who don't like cheese.
Oh, well, some people can't like it, baby.
Well, okay. There's a difference in you can't have it versus you just don't like it.
I've never heard anyone say I don't care for cheese at all.
Oh, I know people who don't care for cheese. And you know what? Shady.
I don't trust
them. Like, how you going to order a plain hamburger?
That's
You get no cheese on this burger? Like, what? I know there's somebody out there who's like, I love a plain burger, and they're probably yelling at me. Get some cheese, y'all.
Damn. All right.
Cheese is life.
So, here we are.
It's quite addictive.
We're in the studio. It's a beautiful day.
No, we're not in the studio. We're out in the street, Dylan.
And Heather has
You're lying.
an announcement to make.
Well, I wanted to give a big shout out to our newest patrons, Robert and Nikki.
Robert and Nikki, thank you so much.
They've gone the distance, Dylan.
They're going the distance.
Yeah.
I don't know the rest. Yeah, you know.
They're something about speed. Yeah, okay. So we're not singing a cake song right now, Dylan. We're talking about Robert and Nikki, who are sponsoring today's episode and are responsible for everything you say.
Oh, shit.
Poor Robert and Nikki.
The liability is all theirs, and we appreciate them for their direct support on Patreon, and we hope they enjoy the ad-free and ton of extra content over there.
There's a lot of episodes.
We don't even know how many episodes.
Not only do you get the ad-free experience of our, regular episodes, but then you get all the bonus content. And we've been doing this podcast for 7 years, so you can imagine the amount of bonus content available.
And we're so ridiculous on Patreon sometimes. So ridiculous behind the paywall.
More ridiculous than we are in general?
Yeah, the public us
okay.
is way less ridiculous.
You've been warned. But we do appreciate folks who support us on Patreon. You help keep the podcast on.
Yeah, that's right.
Keep it on.
I can't wait to see what we get into today. Do you have any breaking news? I'll tell you something. It's more of a, it's not true crime related, but I guess it could be.
Okay.
I work with, today I heard an older gentleman. He told me that somebody thought they were a badass, but little did that person know that he'd jerk a knot in their ass.
Oh, gosh. That is quite a threat coming from an older gentleman.
And I got to tell you, from my experience in my 48 years on Earth, I'm going to lean into it. I'm just that much closer. Because when you hit 50...
Now you're like an old wise owl.
When you hit 50 and the half-century mark, you get some clout. Like, people should listen to you when you give advice and things like that. What?
I said you were an old wise owl.
Oh, okay.
And I'm asking who should listen to you.
And
because I'm not gonna.
When an older guy tells you that he'll jerk a knot in your ass, he probably can jerk a knot in your ass.
Well, I ask you, was this my dad? Because
Right.
that's a phrase he uses quite a bit, that he's going to jerk a knot in somebody's ass.
Right.
Yeah.
And they can fuck around and find out.
Yes.
That's right. Because, old man strength's a real thing.
I've heard.
I'm getting stronger by the day, by the year.
See, the kitty doesn't even agree.
Kitty, get out of here.
She says, I object. Meow.
Go on.
All right, Dylan, well, you asked me if there was any breaking news, and I have to say, this is quite a disturbing news breaking out of Hampton, Virginia. A 1-year-old child reportedly died following a crash in Virginia in which a 14-year-old girl, identified as the child's mother, was driving under the influence.
There's a lot to unpack in that statement. So you have a 14-year-old, and she already has a kid in the car with her?
A 1-year-old.
A 1-year-old.
Which means she had to be pregnant at, 12 or 13?
Yeah, late 12 into 13. Or 12.
I have a lot of questions because this just does not seem like a good situation.
Well, hold up. Now, if you got a 1-year-old, that means you were pregnant the whole time you were 12.
Probably 12, yeah.
Because it takes 10 months, right? That's basically, it takes 10 months.
You got to bake it for 10 months.
Yeah, and then it just pops out of there.
No, it doesn't.
Like a little bloody Pop-Tart.
It does not just, it does not. It does not just pop out of there.
Baby
See,
flavored.
proof that you've never given birth to a child.
Well, look, from my...
if that thing just slid out, there'd be a lot more babies in the world.
It's all about perspective. And from my perspective, it looks like it eventually just popped out of there.
Well, I'm telling you, it don't. Okay, you got to push that thing out. It's hard work. So this crash happened along Interstate 64 in Hampton when the car veered off the road and hit a guardrail before slamming into a barrier. The child, who was, quote, not properly restrained at the time of the crash, was seriously injured and then later died.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, the Virginian Pilot reported that the 14-year-old girl suffered some serious injuries as well and was taken to the hospital. We don't know exactly what her condition is yet. It doesn't seem that has been updated. Authorities said the girl was under the influence and not wearing a seatbelt either.
So many things going wrong in this situation.
She's been charged with driving under the influence, driving without a license, and a child restraint violation. Additional charges are also pending.
It's just... there's so much, there's something going very wrong in this young lady's life, right?
Well, family members said the child would have turned 2 years old on April 4th, and they did identify the teen as the child's mother. If that baby's about to be 2 and she's 14, was she 11 when she got pregnant?
Well, see, that's where
Who is protecting this girl? How did she get a car? Why is she driving under the influence?
she has alcohol.
Why does she have a baby in the car without a car? I mean, what is happening here?
I don't know.
How does she even have access to this stuff?
I mean, it sounds like this poor girl has been now, and we've also discussed many times, you have parents who are trying their best and everything they can think of to, provide for a young person, to get them to do right, follow the rules. And I'm not saying this is true in her case, but sometimes they just absolutely refuse to do the right thing. But there's some really bad failures around this girl.
Well, this to me seems like
because
a failure across the board, because that's a lot. I mean, it is one thing to have a teen pregnancy. It is another for a child who is 11, 12 years old to become pregnant. Unacceptable. That child should be protected.
Well, yeah, if the baby was nearly 2 years old, according to the family. So, I mean, it's hard. I know there's a lot more to this story than that, but I kind of can't get past that. An 11
that isn't
something-year-old girl having a baby?
Then we have this 14-year-old mother driving without a license. She's in somebody's car. Clearly, it's not her vehicle. She has her child in this car without a car seat.
Like who?
She's not wearing a seatbelt, and she's also under the influence. I mean, this is all around like incredibly dysfunctional story.
Who got her pregnant? Because I got to say, unless it was another 11-year-old, I got some serious problems with this.
God, I mean, the whole thing. And that poor baby. I mean, that poor baby didn't ask to be brought into this crazy situation.
Well, no, and she's just a kid.
And this poor child is injured and then dies. Yeah, and then you've got a 14-year-old girl, not really fully, her brain is not fully developed, doesn't really maybe understand the gravity of what she's done.
No, I would not.
Making, bad decisions because she's a kid herself.
Yeah, I mean, she's still young enough. I didn't need to be raising a child at 14. That's for sure, right? I mean, I still felt, of course, you're in that preteen. You kind of want to be older, but I still felt like a kid. Save, from other things I dealt with in my life, I still felt like a kid at 14. Didn't you?
Yeah, totally. I did not want to be grown at 14. Like, I knew I wasn't grown. I didn't try to be grown. I didn't try to do grown things at that age.
Right.
But I also knew I would get into some serious trouble if I ever tried to do anything like that. But I didn't have any desire to be grown. I didn't want to run around with adult men. I didn't want to mess around. I didn't want to drink and do drugs. Like, that just didn't appeal to me at all.
I agree.
Naive 14-year-old.
Well, you were just a kid, and that's what you should be at that.
I was having sleepovers and,
age.
Watching MTV. I mean, that was the extent of my life,
We've discussed this, me and you've discussed this amongst ourselves more than once, and I agree. I didn't want to do those things. I didn't want to sneak out of the house or go off with somebody because I'm like, no, that's the last thing I want to do.
No, I mean, honestly, nothing good seems to come from trying to grow up too fast.
Well, that's a terrible story, and I guess maybe we'll get more,
It's really broken my heart ever since I read the articles about it, saw the news story. Like, I can't stop thinking about it.
Yes,
Because
so
like
sad.
you said, there's definitely got to be more to the story than we're getting. And it just seems like failure across the board. Like, someone failed this young girl and this baby.
Well, yeah, because I got to say, if something, God forbid, happens and you end up with a pregnant 11, 12-year-old, you hope that there be people to help them along, to support them and help them. Like, how does this girl end up going down the road in a car under the influence of alcohol with her
drugs.
child,
we don't know
or
if
drugs,
it was alcohol,
well, yeah,
it could be drugs. We don't know,
or whatever, with no child, no car seat. I mean, what are we doing here? All right.
Really messed up. And then I think you could get into a whole debate about if your 14-year-old has a child, how much do you intervene? Because obviously a 14-year-old is in no place like to raise a child. They are a child. So do you as a grandparent step in and sort of take over raising that baby with the help or assistance of this young parent in the home? I mean, I don't know. Like, this could be a whole debate we could get into, but
You have to intervene almost completely.
I'm like, we probably don't have time to do that right now because we have to talk about true crime.
Well, it's not like you can just say, hey, you got to go get a job and shit. They can't drive. They don't have a license. They can't get a job most of the time, save for, a couple hours here or there.
If the child's dad is 11 years old, like, is he going to get a paper route to pay for diapers? I mean, it's just a lot. It's a lot.
And if the dad isn't 11 years old, that's a whole nother conversation.
Is he gonna be in prison? I mean, what's happening here?
Jesus.
Anyway, it just brings up a lot of ethical questions. All right, so moving along, Dylan, we have a case to discuss. End of March, moving out of the missing persons month. Are you ready?
I cannot wait.
28-year-old Holly worked as a waitress at the Mahawkey restaurant in South Gardner, Massachusetts. It was Saturday night, and Holly looked forward to relaxing with friends. She was also a mother to a 6-year-old girl, so juggling motherhood and working all night on her feet, Holly had earned a drink or two, right?
Well, yeah.
I think a lot of people who work in the service industry like to have a drink after work. Like, just my experience having worked as a server, I've noticed that a lot of people in the restaurant industry like to have a drink after work. It's a stressful job.
Well, and the alcohol's right there, so, it's easily accessed. Maybe you're lucky enough to get one on the house.
South Gardner is a neighborhood in Gardner, Massachusetts, located in Worcester County. It has a few thousand residents and is considered a working class kind of suburban community. It's a much more affordable option than living in Boston, which makes it appealing to many people because Boston is expensive.
Do you think Boston was just typical of any city, or do you think it's more or less expensive like places like New York or LA or something like that?
I think it's probably, I know I've heard it's expensive, and I think that's kind of the nature of living in a bigger city.
Right.
And, you got to consider there's colleges kind of located right in that area. So I think you have this influx of like college students probably wanting to rent, people who've lived there for years, people who move into town for jobs. So, I think it kind of boils down to that. Maybe there's a shortage of housing.
Right.
And if landlords think they can make a buck off of you, they're definitely going to raise the rent prices. I don't know if it's as expensive as living in, say, New York City, but when I lived outside of Boston, rent was pretty expensive, and that was, 15, well, actually, gosh, that's been 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So even then, it was quite expensive compared to, like, my hometown, where you could rent an apartment for, like, $375, $400.
Them was the days.
Right. Even then, it was like, no, you're going to pay $1,400 for an apartment in this area. So, I think it's always been expensive. I think that's just cities. I don't know a city out there where you can get an affordable rent, not even Detroit.
Back in the day, $1,400 or $1,600 would be like a whole 4,000 square foot house.
You think so?
Yeah. In the area where you came from, not maybe Boston.
Right.
All right.
All right, Dylan. So, yeah, people want to live where they can afford to, make a life. So that's kind of what this area is. Quiet community, blue-collar workers, just normal residential area, families, that kind of thing.
Well, I think that's very appealing if you can live in an area just outside of a major city, because you can...
You still have the access.
You can slide into the city, right? Especially if you have, trains coming in and out, things like that. Make it real easy to, get into the city and you have some fun. And
plus, Worcester's like a little city. There's a lot of things to do in Worcester, a lot of restaurants there, shopping. So you're kind of like in your own little You know, you have your own little city there.
Worcester.
Yeah. Now it looks like Worcester, but it's Worcester. And you will be corrected if you mispronounce it when you are in the presence of massholes. I mean, Massachusettsians.
Let's just go with Massachusettsians.
Yeah, I don't even know what the term is for people who are from Massachusetts. But anyway, Holly Jean McNeill was born December 20th, 1955 in Gardner. So she was a local girl. She had lived there her whole life. She drove the half mile from her job to Mr. D's bar on Central Street in Gardner. Mr. D's. If you had a bar, would you call it Mr. D's since you're Mr. Dillon?
No, I don't think I would pick that name.
You would call it the Units Bar and Grill?
No, I would call it
something really cheesy.
I don't know. I would have to put a lot of thought into
like
it.
The Dewdrop Inn.
Yeah, well, that's an awesome name. Now, do you want a bar or a beer joint? Because those are,
I want
different things.
I want to have a beer joint.
Yeah.
Like back home, back in the day, we had a beer joint called the Brar Patch.
Now, could you get liquor there, or is it just beer?
I think it was just beer.
Okay.
Like it was a true, just like beer kind of joint. But it was a hole in the wall, tiny, like teeny tiny room. But man, after work, the boys like to go to the Brar Patch.
And get a little $2 beer or some shit.
Get them a little beer, yeah. So the last call at this bar was 2 a.m. Katie, Holly's friend, extended an invitation to Holly and another person to come over to her apartment. They weren't really ready for the night to end. And I get that. Sometimes even if you're not going to keep drinking, it's nice to continue socializing with your friends.
Well, yeah, you got the buzz on, you're yucking it up, you might, who knows what you might get into, maybe some board games.
Well, I mean, we lived very close to a downtown area, and our local bar was just around the corner. So often after we've been out with friends, we would invite them back to the house just to sit on the porch and look.
Well, yeah, you never know what you would see.
Well, that's true. Like the night some drunk tourists were stumbling down the street miles away from their Airbnb trying to figure out where they are, and we're trying to give them directions, but they're very drunk and it's not really working out. And then some young lad in a big old truck drives by and says out the window, "Hey, bitches." Yeah. And we were all just
hey,
what the fuck?
That was like, welcome to Haywood County.
Yeah.
But no, what was so funny is the one woman, I'll say this right quick and we'll get back to it. She was way less drunk than her friend.
Oh, the friend was.
And the friend is leading the charge.
Very goofy.
And where she's heading is the opposite side of where she needs to be. And she's heading down a road that leads straight to the country, straight out of town. So she's going the exact wrong way. Not even anywhere near where they need to be, and her friend's trying to corral her, and we're trying to tell them, "Hey,
you guys are very far away."
Yeah,
from your Airbnb.
because
it
we
is
knew
like on the exact opposite side of town.
That's such a big town we lived in. We knew where the Airbnb was exactly. They were trying to get back to, and she's trying to corral her drunk friend. She's buzzed too, and here comes this little redneck boy in a Toyota. "Hey, bitches." And just peels out and takes off, and they're like, "What the?" The woman's like, "What the fuck?"
And we had friends.
Yeah,
we're all out on our wraparound porch, and
yeah,
our friends are just like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
we were all like, "Oh my god."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We helped them. We pointed them in the right direction.
I hope we did, so that old Bubba didn't come back and pick up some bitches.
Jeremy, wherever Jeremy got to, he's like, "I seen two girls and I called them bitches." He was real proud of himself.
He probably was. Now, I can think of plenty of times that, like I said, we've invited friends over and we get a "Hey Bitches" story. And, sometimes you make food. You make a breakfast.
Yeah.
Just after midnight. You just hang out. Maybe you play a board game.
Or you have a nightcap.
Or you see somebody who's saying, "Hey, bitches," out their truck window, whatever. Katie waited and waited, expecting Holly to show up anytime. But as dawn creeped in, Katie was uneasy that her friend was a no-show because she had not called to say, "Hey, I changed plans." Of course, it's 1984. There's no cell phones. But Katie was concerned, something had happened. But then she kind of shrugged it off as "Okay, well, maybe Holly decided to go home."
And that's very common too. You know, people say, "Hey, let's do this, let's do that."
Maybe she got in the car, realized like I'm really tired.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go home and crash. Maybe she was a little flaky. I'm a little flaky sometimes.
Well, I've lied to people and told them I was coming somewhere and go home. I've done that before.
That's kind of my MO.
Plenty of times.
I'm just gonna go to bed.
Is that the Irish goodbye? You just disappear?
Yes. When morning broke, Holly's husband, Joseph Cote, realized that his wife never made it back. Her car, a 1969 Pontiac Tempest, was not parked at her home on Graham Street. I guess she had like street parking, and he didn't see her car. Joseph also, he didn't see any indication that his wife had been home at all. He doesn't see her shoes or purse.
Well, see, I wouldn't be able to sleep.
Just the normal things, that you would be like, oh, okay. Like, I know when you've come home because I'm going to find a trail of your shit, everywhere.
It's not true.
It's true.
No, but see, I obviously have no problem with you going out with friends. That's fine. But I would not be able to sleep until I knew you were home safe.
That's
Does
not
that make
true.
sense?
You won't let me have any friends.
That's not true. You don't let you have any friends.
You only let me out of the closet to record, and then you're going to lock me back in there.
I think longtime listeners know damn well that is not the dynamics of our relationship.
Whatever, I've just been putting on a facade all these years.
Not the facade.
Not the facade, the facade.
If anyone's kept in a big sexy box, it's me.
Yeah.
Under the bed.
I wish you were in a big sexy box.
And you just pull the box out when you want to use me.
Well, I feel like that's not going to work.
That's a big sexy box.
I know you, and that's not going to work.
A pink velvet lined box.
I have to give you warning. You need to know in advance.
But surprise throws me off.
Well, I know you have to mentally prepare for it.
Yeah.
There might be sex
in
8 hours.
You just knock on the box and be like, look, it's going down.
You want to be in a box just because you're lazy. You would love it because then all you had to do is lay around in the box.
It sounds so like I have no option but to lay down.
You would love it.
That sounds awesome.
I know. You would love it.
Hey, does anybody out there make boxes?
Has anybody got a lazy box for Dylan?
Yeah, I just needed to be kind of like those old school Burlington recliners or whatever.
So I can peel him off the couch with his pillow and his mini blankets.
Man.
I swear every day I come in here and I have to fold up blankets and there's pillows and I'm just like, what the fuck, dude? Our linen closet is on the couch from you.
Those are couch blankets.
Well, they're not, but you've made them couch blankets. So moving along, he doesn't know that his wife has even come home that night. So he starts trying to track her down. He ends up finding her car in the bar's parking lot. The car had not been moved from the time, that she supposedly left the bar. It's still in the same parking space.
Okay, so here we go. As it always goes in these stories, when he first wakes up, he's sleeping his eye, kind of looking around, and realizes his wife's not home. You're going to be like, what the hell is going on? But by the time you get to the bar and you see that her car looks like it hasn't moved since the night before, you got to be very, very worried.
Yeah, and again, this is the kind of thing where, you have to kind of go out to search for somebody. There's not a way to track them down unless you call friends and family, and then you physically get in your car and you're driving around looking. And it sounds like, it's a relatively small town. He knew where she was going to be. He knows where she works. So he's kind of hitting up those spots and finds her car right there in the bar's parking lot. And I'm assuming that, it's the kind of thing where he kind of knows this is where she parks. So she's probably not moved the car all night. Worried, Joseph calls the police to report his wife missing. There was no reason for Holly not to appear. I mean, it wasn't like they were having marital problems. It was unlike Holly to stay out all night. She would not leave without contacting him. Holly loved her daughter. She was happy with her husband and was very family oriented. There was no way that she's just going to up and leave. I mean, it didn't add up for Joseph.
Up and leave?
She up and left.
She done run off.
Runned off. Maybe with a man.
Maybe with Jeremy in that Toyota.
No, but it would be like you know me well enough to know it'd be really out of character for me to say, hey, I'm going to go out and have a drink with my friend and then just like not ever come home again. And you find my car in a, I mean, you would be concerned because that's very out of character for me.
Oh, yeah. I would be beside myself.
Right? And I know that's not something that you would do either. You're not somebody who's just going to run off.
No.
Leave your car behind. I mean, none of that, you know, makes sense. And so for Joseph, he immediately knows something is not right. Holly's family felt something bad had happened. She was especially close with her sister. They spoke every day. And again, like her family is telling police, this is out of the ordinary. We need to be concerned. Like, don't blow this off. We all know something has happened. A search began around Gardner, which was led by law enforcement. Holly's family had friends and supporters who volunteered to look for the young mother. They searched wooded areas, riverbanks, just all around town. But you know what, Dylan? There was no sign of her. And it wasn't until March 7th that a sinister clue emerged. During a search, blood was discovered on the bank of the Otter River in nearby Templeton. It wasn't a minor amount of blood. It seemed to be enough quantity to be extremely suspicious.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, the blood was collected for testing, and after all, law enforcement, they don't want to jump to conclusions because it could be animal blood. The blood could have belonged to, you know, like a dog. It could have been some kind of animal. It was not Holly's blood. So that's a huge sigh of relief for the family. I should mention it was dog blood.
I was going to say, it was just somebody else's blood.
No, it was dog blood. I'm sorry. Huge sigh of relief for the family, but she's still missing and they don't have any answers. Law enforcement did take Holly's case seriously, though. Unlike a lot of adult missing persons cases, Holly's missing person status continued to press law enforcement. They didn't have any evidence to suggest foul play, but people don't just evaporate into thin air. And especially happy people, married happy people with a child, you know.
No, something has to have...
Close with their family.
Something or someone has intervened. I mean, I think that's obvious.
After a week of exhaustive search efforts, nothing was found. Searchers had combed over the areas of Gardner thoroughly. Law enforcement decided to expand their efforts to some nearby towns. Holly's family refused to give up. They were determined to find her. Gardner was a small town, and many residents shared the same desire to bring Holly home. A local businessman donated $1,000 as a reward, which eventually grew to $5,000. Residents continued donating money, all hoping to find this woman. You know, and with this money, they're also hanging up posters, you know, in the local businesses. You know, people are really like rallying around this missing person. There were no leads whatsoever, so not only did this frustrate Holly's family, but also police. Law enforcement had no indication that she had been abducted, though it was a strong possibility. Holly could also be in hiding somewhere, like maybe she left her husband for another man. It's not beyond the realm of possibilities, and I can understand with no information or evidence how law enforcement maybe could conclude this, even if everyone's saying, no, she was happily married.
Right.
Because you really don't know what goes on behind closed doors, right?
Well, you don't. And sometimes in a situation like this, you will kind of get the hard truth about maybe somebody's relationship or household.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, people don't know behind closed doors. You're in your big sexy box.
There's a reason that that's a phrase like that. What happens behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And in shut boxes.
I'm going to lock that box up. Around the beginning of June 1984, several months after Holly had gone missing, the area experienced major rainstorms. The area around Gardner had gotten 7 inches of rain in just a matter of days. There was flooding, damage to property. Some were forced to leave the area. People had to be rescued from floodwaters. It ended up costing $45 million in damage to the state.
Damn. That's a mess.
That is a mess. And we've seen firsthand how deadly and costly flooding can be.
Yes, for sure. And but even if you adjust that for inflation, that is a very big storm that tore up a lot of things.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at Hurricane Helene and the damage it did with the flooding across western North Carolina and into East Tennessee, I mean, there are communities that were virtually wiped out and have not recovered yet.
Yeah, no.
They're still haggling over, FEMA funds.
These are the types of storms that it literally could take 5, 6, 7 years for an area to recover, and it never fully recovers, right? You always have businesses that, close down. You typically have loss of life of some sort. Of course, that can't be replaced. You have things just change, literally the land, the rivers. I mean, it's such a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, we had another hurricane. Gosh, it's been probably 20 years ago that hit the same area. And I remember Clyde, North Carolina, which is just a little tiny town, right? There were houses completely wiped out. And then
whole neighborhoods.
Yeah, and then people would come back and rebuild, but not everybody. So then you had fewer houses built in this area of town that got extremely flooded.
Yep.
And they had to build their houses almost like up on stilts, right? These really high kind of houses, I guess, to avoid floodwaters.
Well, you have areas that never needed flood insurance. Now you have this big cost put on homeowners who do want to rebuild, because now all of a sudden this is being deemed a flood zone,
right?
Because it's well away from the river, and you never would have thought that the river had gotten bad enough to flood a whole neighborhood like that.
So fewer people rebuild. Some of those people actually move out of town, so you're losing that tax base.
Yeah.
They move away. And then another storm hits 20 years later, floods all over again, wipes out all of those houses. I mean, how many people are going to want to try to rebuild their home a second time?
Yeah, and this could be on, land that's been in a family for generations.
So it's very devastating. And like you said, $45 million, the inflation on that, I mean, this is a pretty bad storm, sounds like. Now, fast forward, after days of rain, a stream flooded and created a lake.
Oh, my gosh.
It was 26 feet above normal levels. Now, how wild is that?
That's insane.
You just wake up and there's all of a sudden a lake. In the town of Royalston, residents decided to take the opportunity to, enjoy their new lake, right? Their area was described as normally being a bit of a swamp, but now the water was high enough that they could actually get out and canoe and kayak around, and it's a lake. It's wild.
Pontoon sails through the roof.
2 canoeists came upon the body of a woman stuck between 2 trees. She was nude. It appeared as though she had been in the water for a long time. Now, without cell phones and no ability to call authorities, the canoeists anchored the body to their boat, and they were able to paddle and bring the body to land. Now, I don't know many people who would, I don't know how to say it appropriately, have the stomach to do that. I mean,
right.
This would freak so many people out, and a lot of people would be like, hell no, I'm not going to anchor the body to my boat and paddle it back into town. No way.
Now, this was a noble effort on their part, but at the same time, it could be
destroying evidence,
or you never know about what was maybe there at the scene. Now, granted, after this major flooding, we have to imagine that this poor woman's remains are probably not where they were left, if you will. But I mean, they didn't want to lose that person's remains. So they really went all out to secure.
Well, again, they didn't really have a lot of options.
Right.
And they might not be able to find their way back to the area. So, I mean, it's understandable and it's commendable what they did. But I'm just saying, I don't know too many people who would do that.
No, a body in water, it's just not a pretty scene in any way.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't even want to, get close enough to recognize that it's a body, Law enforcement was contacted. The body was taken to the medical examiner's office. It was in an advanced state of decomposition. The medical examiner estimated that the body had been in the water for more than a month. Due to decomposition, there was no way to identify the woman. They would need to access dental records. Now, Holly was one of 7 missing women in the area in the last 6 months, and these cases were all unsolved.
Damn. 7 and 6 months?
Yeah, in this area that's, rather small.
That seems like a lot
That is a lot.
in a very short period of time.
Yes. Finally, dental records concluded the body was that of Holly Cote. It was difficult to determine the exact cause of death, but the medical examiner theorized that Holly had died from strangulation, like asphyxiation. Holly's death was ruled a homicide. Her arms had been bound with socks, and her clothing and jewelry were missing.
Well, I think obviously the body being restrained or bound is a good sign that something bad happened to her.
Yeah, this was one of the worst crime scenes ever. With the flooding, then the waters receding, it was nearly impossible to find evidence. Investigators were only able to mark the trees where the canoeists had found her body. But let's be so for real here, Dylan. Her body likely traveled from the original disposal site with this flooding and water and then this lake kind of popping up.
I mean, come on.
That could be a distance away.
Now, I still think there's value in marking the site where the body was found. But yeah, I think there's almost a zero chance that is where her body traveled.
Well, since March, when she went missing, the area had experienced snow, then some warmer temperatures, then a flood.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of different varying weather conditions.
Well, and imagine, those weather conditions can take a toll on human remains. At the time of Holly's discovery, there had been another woman who'd gone missing from the same place. Kathleen Denault was found strangled to death 4 months before Holly had gone missing. Denault was seen with a man, Edward Mayrin Jr., at Mr. D's bar. Then later the same night of November 17th, 1983, at Mahaki Restaurant where Holly worked. Now, I don't believe in coincidences, Dylan. And the next morning, her body was found in a wooded area not far from the restaurant. She had been strangled with a ligature made from her clothing.
Oh, and it sounds like possibly Holly's restraints could have been made from her clothing as well.
Her socks.
Or somebody's clothing.
Yeah. Denault's murder was unsolved. However, Mayrind was a strong suspect in the case because he was a sex offender.
Now, can you imagine after that her poor remains had been through all that, the weather and flooding, and for her arms to still be restrained? That means that they were very, very tightly tied, and you might even be able to say expertly tied, right?
Yeah.
Because have you ever just fooled around tying someone up? You know what I'm saying?
Are you asking?
Yeah.
You don't know?
Well, yeah, I'm saying it's harder than it looks, right? To properly restrain someone
I'm really good at restraining.
Yeah,
someone.
but I mean
You're not. I'm just saying.
But I'm just saying it's it's something you've seen a million times in movies and TV or even thought about. True crime stories, but until you've actually done it, I mean, it's not as easy as it looks, right? Short of handcuffs or something like that.
Sure. I mean, bondage tape works pretty well, but...
Yeah. It only sticks to itself.
Anyway, back in 1975, Mayrin was convicted of rape. He was on parole when Kathleen was murdered. Investigators were unable to tie him conclusively to Kathleen's death, and so no charges were filed. But I'd say he's a pretty good suspect.
Well, yeah.
He's last seen with her at these two places, and he's a sex offender.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's almost a no-brainer, right? To at least be a very strong suspect.
But you can't ignore the similarities in the two murders. I mean, both women are killed in the same way, the same places involved. I mean, that's just too much for me.
That seems like well beyond coincidence, right?
Does it, Dylan?
Yeah, I think so.
Now, of course, the people of Gardner worried there could be a serial killer in town. Later, between 1988 and 1989, the New Bedford highway killer was responsible for the deaths of 9 women. Now, we covered that case many years ago, but that doesn't mean this couldn't be the work of the same person or another serial killer.
Right.
She actually had a few serial killers operating in New England, like around this time.
That's crazy.
Interestingly enough, Edward Mayrand was identified as a possible suspect in the 1987 murder of 43-year-old Judith Whitney. 4 months after she was last seen alive, a hunter found Whitney's body buried in a shallow grave. When Mayrand was tracked down, he had the victim's car and gun. I mean, that's weird, right?
Well, I think that might mean that you're the one who hurt them.
At the same time, there wasn't enough evidence to arrest him. See, that's the thing I don't understand is he's got the victim's car and her gun. How are you saying, well, we don't have enough evidence? I mean, how the hell else do you get her car and her gun? I mean, I know that's kind of circumstantial, but it's still like paints a picture.
Well, I mean, I think nowadays, if I was caught with a murder victim's car and their gun, I would probably be in jail for murder. I mean, I can't imagine most people.
There are people who have been convicted on less.
Way less.
Now, at this time, again, they're saying, well, we don't have enough to arrest him. Whitney's case went cold, but then a cold case unit from New Hampshire worked with Massachusetts authorities who had been working on Denault's cold case, and they were able to obtain DNA evidence linking him to Kathleen Denault's murder, eventually. The DNA and other evidence linked Mayrand to Judith Whitney's murder. Unfortunately, Mayrand died in prison in 2011. He was never charged or convicted of these murders. So he was in prison on like a completely different conviction. Mayrand had met Whitney at an AA meeting. They were seen together for several days, even checking into a motel together in Keene, New Hampshire. Mayrand was then driving Whitney's car around, and when asked about her whereabouts, he would tell people that she was visiting relatives. At the time of Whitney's disappearance, he was on parole for that 1975 rape in Massachusetts. In 1994, Mayrand murdered 46-year-old Patricia Packett in Rhode Island. He was convicted in her murder and was sentenced to prison. So this dirtbag was a literal serial killer who kept getting away with murder.
It's ridiculous. I've said it a million times. He should not have had a second chance at hurting someone after he raped some poor woman.
But he's seen with these women, but we can't prove he did it even though he's murdered these other women in like the very same ways.
A convicted rapist.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we talking about here?
Holly Cote's case goes cold. In January of 1996, investigators in Pinellas County, Florida, were on the scene of Cynthia Pugh's murder. Now, it fit the MO of 3 other killings that had taken place over a 2-year period.
So he's no different than a child murderer who used to be a molester, right?
Well,
he left his victim alive,
escalate.
And he was caught for it and served time. So then he escalates. He makes sure that doesn't happen again.
Well, and sometimes it's not enough anymore. Like they rape a victim, but then it's not enough and they need something more. So then they move on to murder. On October 20th of 1995, a Florida sex worker named Wendy Evans was discovered nude in Oldsmar by a pizza delivery driver. She had been strangled. Cynthia Pugh, another sex worker, was strangled to death. We just talked about that. Now, investigators were able to link James Randall, who drove a Dodge D50 pickup truck, to the murders after discovering tire marks at the crime scenes. I've always found that intriguing how, like, especially before we had a lot of, like, the forensic developments we have today, they were able to trace a killer based on something like tire tracks.
Yeah. Tire or shoe prints, things like that. And, some people say, it's junk science. But I do think that when you get the real world wear on things like that, I think that there are enough different characteristics for that to be pretty solid forensic science, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I mean, just
the
like
way people wear shoes, the way they walk on them.
The shoes, and of course, I automatically think of Richard Ramirez, and those Avia tennis shoes.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have a wear pattern,
yeah,
and that's going to be, you know, maybe not like a fingerprint, but like, you know, some people walk on the outside of their shoes and it wears more or whatever. Or if you have 2 or 3 little chunks of rubber gone out of it that change the print, what are the odds that someone else has the shoe with that exact same? I mean, I think it's pretty solid forensic science. Same thing with a tire, you know?
In the 1980s, Randall was convicted of sexual battery and kidnapping. He was given a 5 to 7 year prison sentence for one of these convictions. He was released in 1992, moved to Florida, and worked as a window installer, which is scary because this is a person who's in people's homes.
That's so creepy. That's probably why he's doing that kind of work.
Well, I mean, I know things were a little different back then, but you would hope that some of these companies where whether it's a plumber or a window installer or electrician or whatever, someone who might come into your home, that there would be some kind of background check and that they would not hire sex offenders.
Well, here's the thing. For a larger company, likely. But for the smaller businesses, long before it was that easy to look someone up like it is now with your, you know, on the internet, probably very unlikely.
It's a really freaky thought.
Yeah.
You know, because I think of all the times I've been here alone, you've been at work, and we've had somebody come by, plumber, you know, insurance adjuster, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, cool. I'll let this person in my house. I'm always weary about it, but let them in my house. And, you know, you never know. Like, this person could be a sex offender, a murderer.
Well, yeah. And they have compulsions that they obviously can't control, or they would not keep doing these things after time and again of getting in trouble, spending time in prison. And so, you know, if they have that kind of overtake them, you know, who's to say they won't try to make a move, you know, even if they are being dispatched to your house, even if it makes there's no way they're going to get away with it.
Other cases where the worker was not even doing a job for a victim, but just happened upon them, whether this is the neighbor and they spot the neighbor or whatever. I mean, there's the actress Adrienne Shelley, and she was in like her office, and there was a worker doing some kind of construction in an apartment down the hall, and they were making a lot of noise, and she like went and asked like, hey, can you guys keep it down? I'm trying to work over here. And this worker just came and snatched her up and killed her.
Oh my God.
Hung her and made it look like a suicide. And it was her husband who was like, I don't believe we need to investigate this. And they ended up arresting this guy, undocumented worker.
He's an undocumented American?
Yes.
Oh my God.
That doesn't even make sense. But, you know, here's this guy just working.
He's a piece of shit, right? That's what he is.
Gets pissed off because she asks him to like try to keep it down, and then he murders her.
I mean, who does that?
And like her husband ended up suing this construction company for hiring this guy, and it was like a whole big thing. That just comes to mind because I'd recently listened to, like, I knew the story pretty well, but I'd listened to another podcast covering it, and that kind of thing happens. I mean, you're not even paying this person. They're not even in your house, but they spot you.
Right.
And they finish their job across the street and then come over and attack you. Like, it's really scary.
It is.
Scary times. So when police approach Randall for questioning, he drives away, and they end up having like this high-speed chase. Randall escapes on foot, which I always think is so brazen.
Well, yeah.
To decide to get out of the car and run. Because I'm like, bro, you're going to get tasered or shot or something. I've seen cops. I know how it works.
Well, are we in the 90s now or late 80s?
This is, I believe, in the 90s, honey.
Yeah.
Okay, so 4 days later, Randall was finally apprehended. Randall, investigators learned, had an autoerotic asphyxiation fetish, and he had a long history of non-consensual violent attacks.
Sounds like someone who should be in jail.
I've never understood the autoerotic asphyxiation thing. Multiple people have died from that.
Well, yeah, trying to do it to themselves, right?
What was it, Carradine?
Well, that's what, some people...
I mean, there's a conspiracy theory about that, but...
Some people argue that he didn't do that to himself.
But that was kind of the official
right
story we were told.
And then his brother committed suicide.
Yeah, recently.
That's weird, right?
Yeah.
No, but the taking yourself to that brink or whatever. And I'm sorry, and they say, oh, well, my orgasms feel plenty fine enough. I don't need to, you know what I mean? I would never chance doing something like that, especially by myself.
Ew, I'm sorry, but that scene in the Ed Gein series.
Yeah.
Okay, and like Charlie Hunnam or whatever. I mean, he's a hottie. And it was really weird seeing him in that role because he was fucking creepy. But then here he is with like his hot body.
Oh my God, what are you talking
wearing
about?
His like mama's lingerie, hanging himself from the door, like,
right.
doing the D. Like that scene left a mark on me.
Yeah, and I always thought that's what I always found so creepy about because apparently BTK Killer would do something similar. And just like his balding.
I mean, I don't care that he was wearing lingerie or whatever, but just the whole thing of he's doing this and he's hanging himself, but I'm conflicted because he's hot, but then he's also like weirdly creepy playing this character.
And he's talking like this.
Yes, make it stop.
I just like to touch myself.
I
can't breathe, Mom. It makes me feel good.
Gosh, I wonder if he's going to get any more roles or if he'll be like Anthony Perkins and Psycho and
just totally
people will be like, no, you were too Ed Gein. You can't ever play another character again.
Now, I've heard other stars say, hey, that was a dark role, and it, sometimes have to actually get therapy or help or take some time off to kind of recover. And he did say that be just immersing himself in just all the info and, the tapes. And I guess he got it all that was available on Gein, really kind of left a mark on him and kind of just died because he went head first into this, like almost seemingly full on method. Because, it was creepy, right?
Well, isn't that what people said about Heath Ledger, like with the Joker role, that he took it a little too far?
Right, that he kind of never fully recovered.
I can kind of see how that would affect you in a way that maybe like normal people who are just researching it might be like, wow, that's disturbing. But when you're also trying to get into that headspace and play that character,
yeah, I know
how that could fuck you up.
I could see that.
Yeah. Randall was convicted in April of 1997 for the murders of both women in Florida. He was suspected in the 1994 murder of LaDonna Stellar, whose nude body was found on a vacant lot in Clearwater, Florida. He is also considered a suspect in the 1995 murder of Peggy Darnell. These women both, they had ties to sex work. After his arrest in the 1987 conviction, he told psychiatrists in Massachusetts that he derived sexual pleasure from choking women. That was the thing, Dylan. He had spent much of his life in Massachusetts before going to Florida.
Okay.
So he likes to choke women. It gets him hot and bothered. It was determined that he had a propensity for violence against women, including wives and girlfriends. So there was like domestic violence involved in his relationships. Court records from the Cynthia Pugh and Wendy Evans trial revealed that James Randall had been a suspect in the 1984 murder of Holly Cote. On March 4th of 1984, Holly was last seen leaving Mr. D's bar with James Randall.
I'm no genius, but this could be your guy, folks.
We just don't have enough evidence.
Well, he just had all her personal belongings.
We might have to actually do some work to bring a conviction and, make an arrest. So
now, is this one of those cases where you think that maybe they don't want to admit that they have a serial killer in the area?
Could be. We have seen time and time again where police departments do not want to admit they have a problem.
Even when there's overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
Well, yeah. Especially small town department. They don't have the resources, like the financial resources to handle a serial killer case. They're inexperienced. Well, they scare the community. It can be a whole thing, right?
And maybe sometimes they really haven't put two and two together and they really don't believe that's the case. Or it's almost like sometimes they're willing to have a handful of unsolved similar cases it's almost like they would rather deal with that than to maybe to take a step back and say, hey, maybe we need some help. See, that's the thing about it is if you do take that leap, and I understand public safety and everything, you want to be very careful with that. You don't want to make any types of assumptions, especially something like that. It's a very serious, you're really taking it to another level. But you will get extra resources and help and stuff. You know what I mean? It seems like typically the state or somebody, the FBI, somebody will step in and help to some degree. Though I know a lot of departments aren't keen on that, especially back then, because of the whole
into those pissing contests with each other,
right?
And yeah.
But see, all that should be,
and then departments think, oh, that makes us look weak.
All that needs to be back because see,
yeah,
it's really flies in the face of public safety if that's your feelings that you're having, because now you're like making all these decisions to save face or some shit like that when your only concern should be catching someone who's hurting these women, killing them.
Well, guess what, police? It's not about you. It's about a victim.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving along, James was invited to join Holly and Katie for another drink. Remember, Katie invited people over to her apartment to have a nightcap or whatever? Well, he was one of the people. Holly had been best friends with James's wife, and so she knew him. Like, this is her best friend's husband. She knew him. She'd been around him.
So this is someone she may get a ride with over to the after party or something.
Possibly. They're last seen together in the parking lot, supposedly heading over to Katie's house. And guess who else didn't show up at Katie's place?
Him.
Yeah. Joseph Cote had attended high school with James Randall, though they were a few years apart. Joseph admitted that he had never liked Randall, so hearing that he was a person of interest in his wife's murder, I mean, wow. He was like, what the hell?
That's wild.
Because he did not like this guy. He thought he was a piece of shit, creep, and then now he's a suspect. I mean, I'm sure you would be just mowed over, but also probably really angry.
Yeah.
Like, let me have 5 minutes with this douchebag.
Well, definitely.
Right? It was also noted that the location of Holly's body was a place James Randall frequented as a fishing spot. James, like, he went around bragging about, like, I have this special fishing spot.
His secret spot.
Yeah, my dad calls it his honey hole.
Yeah.
Which I think is funny.
Well,
I'm always just like, that sounds vulgar.
Anybody who fishes with any type of frequency has that spot or those few spots that they might only take their trusted friend to, who's not going to tell other people.
My daddy took me to his honey hole.
Where you always have luck. You can almost guarantee you're going to catch fish when you go there. Maybe it's a spot you try after striking out at other places.
Yeah, and it might be a spot where you have to like do a little hiking to get back in there. And
right.
It's kind of tucked away. And
it's
so
typically,
and that's you do think this is like a secret spot nobody knows about.
Well, and that's a good point. They typically are off the beaten path or harder to get to.
I like to hide my honey hole.
That's how I'm going to go get them fishes. They're up there in my hole.
So, yeah, James Randall bragged about, like, this is my fishing spot, you know, I catch the big ones there, and that just so happens to be, again, I don't believe in coincidences, it just happens to be.
In the general area where her body was found. Damn.
James had been questioned by police, but during his interview, they described him as being cool as a cucumber.
That's because he's a maniac, dude. He's a sociopath.
Exactly. James claimed he'd gone to a friend's house after the bar. The friend's house was close to where Holly's body had been found, but according to James, the friend had the lights off and appeared to be sleeping. So how is he using this as an alibi? He's like, I went to my friend's house, but then it's like, oh yeah, it was dark. I didn't go in.
And see, that's
by the way, the body is found right by this house.
Right.
And his honey hole.
And I think that's what was so important about the show Mindhunters took us through the moment or the time where there really was a big change in the way law enforcement thought about and these killers, because them realizing, back in the day before all that, before the term serial killer or anything like that, or these investigative techniques that are so very important nowadays, if they have a suspect and they're questioning them on some horrific murder or set of events, and they're just chill, calm, seem very cooperative, not sweating, they don't seem nervous, they take that as innocence, right? Before they, come to had the realization of these are the characteristics of someone who's capable of doing these terrible things to people. So I think that was a very important leap forward for investigative techniques and knowledge.
Well, his alibi is a shit alibi. There was no physical evidence tying James Randall to Holly's murder, so he was let go. Hey, all the arrows point to you, but you know what? We're just going to let you go.
Well, okay.
Don't do murder again, boy.
Don't you be hanging around nobody who ends up murdered again. It's going to look bad eventually.
A decade after James Randall was handed down 2 life sentences in Florida, the Worcester County District Attorney's Office said they intended to pursue new forensics in Holly's case. Clothes had been taken from Randall in 1984. There was a dark blood stain, and it was determined to be human blood. So he had some blood stains on the clothes. They wanted to conduct further testing, but it seems maybe the item was too deteriorated to do this. As of today, Holly's case remains unsolved. Randall is still serving his life sentences in Florida's prison system. Holly's death had lasting impacts on her family. Holly's sister, as well as her young daughter, battled substance abuse issues dealing with it. Investigators feel confident that Randall is responsible for Holly's death. Again, they just don't have enough to bring charges.
What do you think?
Well, let me get to my resources first. I read articles from the Boston Herald, the Boston Globe, Tampa Bay Times, Unsolved, Worcester's YouTube channel, South Coast Today, and the Worcester Telegram. No, I think this guy's totally guilty.
Yeah.
I mean, again, too many coincidences. You're last seen with this person. You don't show up to the apartment. Her body is found in a location you are known to frequent. And your alibi is that you went to a house right near the spot where her body was found. I mean, come on. And you have a history of being like a sexual deviant, a domestic abuser, and you've been convicted of these other murders.
I mean, come on. What are we waiting on?
And possible suspect in other... I mean, come on. This guy's a serial killer, and I'm pretty sure he did it.
Yeah, I mean, what's the odds that she came up on someone worse than him? Because he seems as bad as it gets.
He does seem as bad as it gets. And I'm really glad that they were finally able to put this guy behind bars because he's a menace. And I think he's very dangerous and would have continued to prey upon women in Florida and who knows where else. And who knows how many victims he had that they haven't tied him to.
Yeah, I know, because all those years.
Because these people don't just stop.
No, they don't stop. Unless they're dead or put in prison for some, something else.
No, it's like once they get a taste for it, they just keep on going, And I mean, he's probably got a trail of victims in his wake that we know nothing about.
And given all the knowledge we have now here in 2026, I mean, there's still plenty to learn. And I don't think you ever, even as a true crime fans or someone who studies it, you never know everything, but I think we've really come a long way with the understanding of the psychopathy involved in people like this, the warning signs, the harming animals, wetting the bed, was it the McDonald triangle?
Is it McDowell? Or McDonald? I don't know.
The whatever triangle. I mean, we all know the thing. And
the triad, yeah.
Just all these behaviors that just point big red flags to someone being a certain way. And I just don't think it would be that hard to change our laws to, like we were talking about the other day, like stalking, how the obsession and the deviancy of stalking is not something that can be easily dealt with.
No.
Once someone shows those characteristics, and they're in a whole nother fucking category now. Well, they can't control themselves.
I had been telling you, and that's how the stalking thing came up, because it was just so mind-blowing to me. I listened to this podcast episode, and I don't even remember. It might have been like 48 hours or something. But they were discussing how many TV, like people who are in broadcasting, like TV news anchors,
right,
radio DJs, how listeners or the audience that they get obsessed with the news person, right? The anchor. And they have all these stalkers, and they're
So
like
as a
some of
percentage,
them,
they
like
get-
they have like some of the, like they're percentage wise, like have the most stalking of like any profession. And listening to some of the stories are so fucking scary.
Right.
And some of these people had to retire and or like quit their job and move across country to get away from a stalker. And then law enforcement would tell them like, our hands are tied until something happens, like, and the anchor would be like what? Like, I get murdered? I mean, what are you doing here to help me, protect me?
Yeah.
And some of these anchors had never met their stalker. That, like, one of the women, the first time she'd ever even laid eyes on her stalker was in court when she got a restraining order for the first time. But it's like these people would be sent off. Like, one guy got sent off to like a mental hospital for a period of time. I want to say like a year. And when he got out, he continued stalking the news anchor.
Didn't he? I thought one story was the guy went away for a little while and then told the doctors everything was fine, but then got out and like killed
there were
them.
like multiple stories like this. Like, it was so...
And the doctor's like, we didn't think he'd really do it. We thought he was okay. I mean, it's like, dude, once someone shows that, you can't trust them anymore because they'll tell you anything to get out of the mental hospital or jail or whatever.
Yeah, and the way they fixate on these anchors, like, I know we're supposed to be together, and they're trying to keep us apart. And it's like, no, I don't want to be with you, bud. But they can't accept this as an answer. And will say things like, I know that outfit you wore was just for me. You look really sexy today. Like,
so freaky.
Dude, there were so many, like, just different interviews and people sharing their stories on this episode. And it was fucking scary.
I think...
Because imagine, like, you're just working at a dental office or... You're out doing fences, Dylan, and then somebody just starts fixating on you. I mean, most people don't experience that.
Right.
But how freaking scary, because really it could happen to anybody.
Oh, it's terrifying. And I think, like, these people who have so many cases of, extreme domestic violence, beating their partner to a pulp, and
hospitalizations
that should be
serious injuries. Yeah.
The first time you do that, 25 years to life, bud.
Well, they talk about wanting to create like a domestic violence registry, like a sex offender registry. I think they should.
I think they should as well. I'm
not against that.
You should be able to look someone up and see in a very easy format that's easily accessible by the public. See with very in detail what they've
the conviction.
Right.
Now, if you've just been charged and it was dropped or whatever, I'm not saying that you should be entered into that, because I know that sometimes those are not, aren't real.
And that's the first thing the proponents would say.
Which is kind of, I mean, it's sad to say, but, some people do weaponize that.
Well, that's the first thing proponents would say. Or I'm sorry, opponents.
That's what I'm saying. It should be like convicted, like you've done this, you've been convicted.
Or if there's a case file of you beat the living shit out of this woman or man, whoever, this person.
Proof that you did this.
And they put them in the hospital, something, that's not okay. I don't care who you are.
Well, I think that it should be a thing. But just like with stalking, I mean, they don't take it as seriously as they should. And it's really scary and it's deviant. And I think it can definitely escalate, like being a sex offender.
They don't take rape, molestation, stalking, or any of that. And it's so many times, or domestic violence, all these things that are typically violence towards women.
I was going to say, well, who's victimized in many of these cases?
And children who can't protect themselves. And that's why it's on you. Honestly, I believe it's on you to be your biggest advocate for protection and everything else. If I'm telling you, like, if I had a loved one right now, whoever it was, and it was like, hey, there's this part, we're going to gear you up. We're going to get you some training, and you're going to start a hypervigilance campaign to where if that we're going to, is what they say, it's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Well, that's what I was thinking just now. Well, all I know is like
because the system's not going to protect you.
Well, yeah, and so when a motherfucker pops up out of a bush or something, you ready?
Yeah, that's right. That's because you got your little friend always on you, full of hot lead.
2-way, baby.
Damn. All right, enough ranting. Thanks again to our newest patrons,
Robert and Nikki.
Robert and Nikki. We really appreciate your support. And thanks to everyone listening. Our numbers are percolating again, and we really do appreciate you tuning in to us all these years later. If you've just found us, welcome.
Oh, yeah. We've had a few folks reach out and say, hey, I just found your podcast recently. I'm in 2019, but I can't wait to get through. And I'm wow,
gosh.
you have so much to look forward to.
I've said so much dumb stuff during that time.
Exactly. You need to catch up on just how stupid we are.
And then, of course, we got the OGs. We love you all.
No, it's amazing. And I would love to hear from everybody. So, like, any time that I get an email or some kind of instant message or whatever, I mean, it really does make our day. And you can email us at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from you.
And you can say anything to us.
Well, short of a death threat.
And I may or may not have clothes on when Heather reads it to me.
Dylan.
You know it's true.
Get back in your sexy box.
I'm going to go get my box.
Okay. Bye, Dylan.
Bye.